A rich businessman lost everything, but he was saved by the black maid he always ignored. Jack Harrison stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, his steely gaze fixed on the sprawling cityscape below. The setting sun cast a golden hue across the skyline, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within him. His fingers, adorned with a platinum Rolex, drummed an anxious rhythm on the polished mahogany desk behind him. The door swung open, and his assistant, Claire, entered with a tablet in hand. "Mr. Harrison, they're ready for you in the conference room." Jack nodded, his jaw clenching imperceptibly. He straightened his bespoke suit and followed Claire down the corridor. The click of their shoes on the marble floor echoed through the hushed office. As they approached the conference room, the low murmur of voices grew louder, a mixture of excitement and apprehension palpable in the air. He paused for a moment, hand on the door handle, and took a deep breath. With practiced ease, he plastered on his signature confident smile and strode into the room. "Gentlemen, ladies," Jack greeted, his voice resonating with authority. The chatter ceased immediately as all eyes turned to him. "I appreciate you all being here on such short notice. I have some exciting news to share about our latest venture." The room was filled with some of the most influential investors in the country. Jack recognized faces he'd seen gracing the covers of Forbes and Fortune. They leaned forward in their ergonomic chairs, eager to hear what the great Jack Harrison had up his sleeve this time. As Jack launched into his presentation, detailing the groundbreaking technology his company had invested in, he felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. This was where he thrived, in the spotlight, commanding attention, selling dreams and possibilities. "This technology," Jack declared, gesturing to the holographic display behind him, "is set to revolutionize the energy sector. We're looking at potential returns of 500% within the first 2 years alone." A collective murmur of approval rippled through the room. Jack's confidence soared. He was on the cusp of his greatest triumph yet. But then, just as he was about to reveal the projected figures, his personal phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. Jack faltered for a split second, a flicker of unease crossing his face. "If you'll excuse me for just a moment," he said smoothly, stepping out of the room. In the hallway, Jack answered the call. "This better be important, Tom," he hissed to his CFO. The color drained from Jack's face as he listened to Tom's frantic explanation. Words like system failure, complete meltdown, and irretrievable losses pierced through the fog of disbelief clouding his mind. That's impossible," Jack muttered, his free hand clenching into a fist. "We had fail-safes, redundancies." But as Tom continued, the horrifying reality sank in. The technology they had invested everything in, their company's future, their investors' money, Jack's personal fortune, had catastrophically failed, and there was no coming back from it. Jack ended the call, his hand trembling slightly as he lowered the phone. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and steeled himself for what he had to do next. Re-entering the conference room, Jack's demeanor had shifted subtly. The spring in his step was gone, replaced by a leaden weight that seemed to press down on his shoulders. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within, "I'm afraid I have some unfortunate news." As Jack explained the situation, he watched the faces around the room transform. Excitement gave way to confusion, then disbelief, and finally, anger. Questions were hurled at him from all directions, accusations flying like arrows. How could this happen? "Do you have any idea how much money we've lost?"
"Is this some kind of joke, Harrison?"
Jack weathered the storm, answering as best he could, but with each passing minute, he felt his world crumbling around him. The empire he had built over decades was collapsing in a matter of hours. As the last of the investors stormed out, hurling threats of lawsuits and ruination, Jack found himself alone in the cavernous conference room. He slumped into a chair, his head in his hands, the weight of his failure crushing down on him. Hours later, Jack finally made his way home to his sprawling mansion. The house, usually a symbol of his success, now felt like a mausoleum to his shattered dreams. He wandered through the rooms, each filled with expensive artwork and rare antiques, all of which now seemed hollow and meaningless. In the kitchen, he found Maya Washington, his longtime maid, preparing dinner. She looked up as he entered, her warm brown eyes widening at his disheveled appearance. "Mr. Harrison?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Is everything all right?" Jack managed a bitter laugh. "No, Maya. Everything is most definitely not all right." He slumped onto a bar stool, loosening his tie. "I've lost everything. The company, my investments, probably this house. It's all gone." Maya set down the knife she'd been using and moved closer, her brow furrowed with worry. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrison. Is there anything I can do?" Jack shook his head, a sad smile playing on his lips. "Unless you can turn back time or conjure up a few $1 billion. I'm afraid not." Maya hesitated for a moment, then placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. The gesture, simple and sincere, nearly undid Jack. He felt tears pricking at the corners of his eyes and blinked them away furiously. "You should probably start looking for a new job, Maya," he said softly. "I won't be able to keep you on for much longer." Maya nodded slowly, but there was a determined glint in her eye that Jack was too preoccupied to notice. "I understand, Mr. Harrison. But for now, let me at least fix you something to eat. You look like you could use it." As Maya busied herself in the kitchen, Jack's phone began to buzz incessantly. News of his company's collapse had broken, and now everyone, from business partners to so-called friends, was calling for explanations, to distance themselves, or worse, to gloat. Jack turned off his phone and tossed it aside. He watched Maya work, marveling at her calm efficiency in the face of his world falling apart. There was something comforting about her presence, a steadiness that he desperately needed right now. As the days passed, Jack watched helplessly as his life unraveled. His office was closed, employees let go, assets seized. The mansion, once a hive of activity with staff and visitors, grew quiet and empty. Through it all, Maya remained. Even as other staff members left, she stayed, continuing her duties as if nothing had changed. Jack found himself grateful for her presence, a constant in the chaos his life had become. One evening, about a week after the collapse, Jack sat in his study, surrounded by papers, legal notices, bank statements, all bearing bad news. He looked up to see Maya standing in the doorway, a determined expression on her face. "Mr. Harrison," she said, her voice steady, "I have an idea I'd like to discuss with you." Jack raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued despite his melancholy. "An idea? About what, Maya?" She took a deep breath and stepped into the room. "About how you can get back on your feet, and maybe do some good in the process." As Maya began to speak, Jack found himself listening intently. For the first time in days, a tiny spark of hope flickered in his chest. He didn't know it yet, but this conversation was about to change everything. The early morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, casting long shadows across the marble countertops. Maya Washington stood at the sink, her hands submerged in soapy water as she washed the previous night's dishes. Her mind, however, was far from the task at hand. For days, she had watched Jack Harrison, once the epitome of success and confidence, wander through the mansion like a ghost. His shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow, a man adrift in a world that had suddenly turned hostile. The contrast to the man she had known for years was stark and unsettling. Maya had always been more than just a maid to the Harrison household. Over the years, she had become a silent observer, a confidant of sorts. She had seen the triumphs and the failures, the late-night strategy sessions and the early morning victories, and now she was witnessing the fall. But Maya was not one to stand idly by. As she dried her hands on a nearby towel, she made a decision. It was time to act. She found Jack in his study, as she had for the past several mornings. He sat behind his imposing desk, now cluttered with papers and empty coffee cups, a far cry from its usual immaculate state. His laptop was open before him, the screen reflecting the glow of yet another news article detailing his downfall. Maya cleared her throat softly. "Mr. Harrison?" Jack looked up, his eyes taking a moment to focus. "Yes, Maya?" She stepped into the room, her heart pounding, but her resolve firm. "I was wondering if I could speak with you about something important." Jack leaned back in his chair, a wry smile playing on his lips. "More bad news? I'm not sure how much more I can take." Maya shook her head. "No, sir. Actually, I have an idea. A proposal, if you will." Curiosity flickered in Jack's eyes, a spark of the man he used to be. He gestured to the chair across from him. "I'm listening." Maya sat down, smoothing her apron nervously. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her head, but now that it was here, the words seemed to stick in her throat. She took a deep breath and began. "Mr. Harrison, I've been thinking about your situation, and I believe there might be an opportunity here. An opportunity to not only rebuild, but to do something truly meaningful." Jack's eyebrows rose slightly. "Go on." "I grew up in one of the poorest neighborhoods in this city," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. "I've seen firsthand the struggles people face, the lack of opportunities, the decay of once vibrant communities, but I've also seen the potential, the resilience, the untapped talent." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with passion. "What if we could create a project that revitalizes these underprivileged neighborhoods? Not just through charity, but through sustainable development and community empowerment." Jack's interest was piqued, but skepticism clouded his features. "Maya, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not sure I follow. How exactly would this work?" Maya had anticipated this question. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. As she unfolded it, Jack could see it was covered in neat handwriting and rough sketches. "I've done some research," she explained. "The idea is to create a sustainable development project that focuses on 3 key areas: affordable housing, small business incubation, and community education programs." She pointed to different sections of her makeshift proposal. "We start by identifying abandoned or underutilized properties in these neighborhoods. We renovate them, creating affordable housing units and spaces for small businesses. But here's the key. We involve the community in every step of the process." Jack listened intently as Maya outlined her vision. She spoke of job training programs, microloans for aspiring entrepreneurs, and partnerships with local schools and community organizations. Her eyes shone with enthusiasm, her hands gesturing animatedly as she described the potential impact. "The beauty of this project," Maya concluded, "is that it's not just about giving handouts. It's about creating opportunities, fostering self-reliance, and building stronger communities from the ground up." As Maya finished speaking, a heavy silence fell over the room. Jack sat back in his chair, his mind whirling with the possibilities Maya had presented. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of excitement, of purpose. But old habits die hard, and doubt crept in. "Maya, this is ambitious, but I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. My reputation is in tatters. Who would trust me with a project like this?" Maya leaned forward, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Mr. Harrison, your past doesn't define your future. Yes, you've made mistakes, but you also have years of business experience, connections, and knowledge. This is your chance to use those skills for something truly impactful." Jack stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the manicured lawn that stretched before him. He thought about the contrast between his world and the neighborhoods Maya had described. He thought about the ruthless business decisions he had made in the past, always in pursuit of profit. And he thought about the opportunity before him now, a chance at redemption, at leaving a different kind of legacy. He turned back to Maya, a new resolve in his eyes. "It won't be easy," he said. "We'll face skepticism, resistance, maybe even ridicule." Maya nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I know, but I believe it's worth trying. Don't you?" Jack looked at Maya, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time. He saw not just a maid, but a woman of intelligence, compassion, and vision. He saw a partner. "All right, Maya," he said, a genuine smile breaking across his face for the first time in weeks. "Let's do this, but on one condition." Maya raised an eyebrow questioningly. "We do this as equals," Jack said. "No more, Mr. Harrison. It's Jack, and you're not my maid anymore. You're my partner in this venture. Deal?" Maya stood, extending her hand. "Deal, Jack." As they shook hands, both felt the weight of the moment. It was more than just an agreement. It was the beginning of a journey, a partnership that would challenge them both in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of activity. Jack and Maya commandeered the dining room, spreading out papers, laptops, and Maya's hand-drawn plans across the expansive table. They delved into research, exploring similar projects in other cities, studying zoning laws, and identifying potential neighborhoods for their pilot program. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the windows, Jack leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. "We've got a long road ahead of us," he said, looking at the mountain of work before them. Maya nodded, her expression a mixture of determination and excitement. "Yes, we do, but we've made a start. That's what matters." Jack smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. "You're right, and Maya, thank you for believing in this, for believing in me." Maya returned his smile. "We believe in each other, Jack. That's what partners do." As they continued working into the night, the mansion that had felt like a mausoleum just days ago buzzed with new energy. Ideas flowed, plans took shape, and hope, fragile but persistent, began to take root. Outside, the city lights twinkled, oblivious to the transformation taking place within the walls of the Harrison mansion. But soon, very soon, those lights would shine on a story of redemption, partnership, and the power of second chances. The weeks following Maya's proposal saw a flurry of activity in the Harrison mansion. The once silent halls now echoed with animated discussions, the clatter of keyboards, and the rustle of papers. The dining room had been transformed into a makeshift war room, walls covered with maps, charts, and sticky notes outlining their ambitious plan. Jack sat at the head of the table, poring over a stack of financial reports. His brow furrowed in concentration as he scribbled notes in the margins. Across from him, Maya was engrossed in her laptop, researching successful community revitalization projects from around the world. "Maya," Jack called out, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. "I've been thinking about our funding strategy. We need to approach this differently than I'm used to." Maya looked up, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Jack leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "In my old world, it was all about maximizing profits, impressing shareholders. But this is different. We need investors who care about more than just the bottom line." Maya nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "You're right. We need partners who believe in our vision, not just our potential returns." "Exactly," Jack agreed, a hint of excitement creeping into his voice. "I'm thinking we should look into impact investing firms, socially responsible investment funds, maybe even explore crowdfunding options." Maya's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant, Jack. It aligns perfectly with our mission, and it could help us build community support right from the start." As they delved deeper into their discussion, bouncing ideas off each other with growing enthusiasm, neither of them noticed the shift that had occurred. The initial awkwardness of their new partnership had melted away, replaced by a synergy that was both surprising and exhilarating. Days turned into weeks, and their project began to take shape. Jack found himself constantly amazed by Maya's insight and creativity. She brought a perspective he had never considered in his years of corporate deal-making, a ground-level understanding of the communities they aimed to help. One rainy afternoon, as they were reviewing potential neighborhoods for their pilot program, Maya noticed Jack staring out the window, a distant look in his eyes. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked gently. Jack turned to her, a rueful smile on his face. "I was just thinking. All those years, I thought I knew everything about business, about success. But working with you, Maya, I'm realizing how much I didn't know, how much I never even thought to consider." Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. "We all have blind spots, Jack. The important thing is that you're willing to learn, to see things differently." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You know, in my old life, I never would have given this project a second thought. I would have dismissed it as unprofitable, too risky. But now," he gestured to the papers spread out before them, "now I can see the potential, the real impact we could have." Maya reached out, placing her hand on his arm. "That's why we make a good team. We balance each other out." Their eyes met, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. A mutual respect, a growing trust, and perhaps something more. The moment was broken by a sudden clap of thunder outside. Jack cleared his throat, turning back to the maps on the table. "So, you were saying about the Riverside District?" As Maya launched back into her analysis, Jack found himself watching her, seeing her in a new light. Her passion, her intelligence, her unwavering commitment to their cause, all of it struck him with a newfound appreciation. The next day, they decided to visit one of the neighborhoods they were considering for their pilot program. As Jack's sleek car pulled into the rundown area, he felt a pang of discomfort. This was a world far removed from the glossy corporate environments he was used to. Maya, sensing his unease, placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "It's okay, Jack. This is my old neighborhood. Let me show you around." As they walked the streets, Maya pointed out various buildings and shared stories of the people who lived there. Jack listened intently, seeing the neighborhood through her eyes, not just the peeling paint and cracked sidewalks, but the potential, the lives and dreams of the people who called this place home. They stopped at a small, dilapidated playground. A group of children were playing on the rusty equipment, their laughter a stark contrast to the gloomy surroundings. "This is why we're doing this," Maya said softly. "For them, to give them a chance at a better future." Jack nodded, a lump forming in his throat. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of what they were undertaking. This wasn't just about redeeming his reputation or making money. It was about changing lives. As they continued their tour, they came across a boarded-up building on a corner lot. Maya's eyes lit up. "Jack, look at this place. It's perfect." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Perfect? It looks like it's about to fall down." Maya laughed, shaking her head. No. Look beyond that. This building has good bones. It's in a central location. We could renovate it, turn the ground floor into a community center. maybe small business spaces. The upper floors could be affordable apartments. As Maya spoke, gesturing animatedly, Jack began to see it. In his mind's eye, he could picture the transformed building, bustling with activity, breathing new life into the neighborhood. "You're right," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "It is perfect." They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the neighborhood, identifying other potential sites for their project. As the sun began to set, they found themselves at a small food truck parked on a corner. "Best tacos in the city," Maya declared, leading Jack to the window. As they sat on a nearby bench, enjoying their impromptu dinner, Jack couldn't help but marvel at the turn his life had taken. Here he was, the former titan of industry, eating street tacos in a neighborhood he would have previously avoided, and feeling more alive than he had in years. "Maya," he said, turning to her, "I want you to know I'm grateful for this opportunity, for your faith in me. I won't let you down. Maya smiled, her eyes shining in the fading light. "We're in this together, Jack. Partners, remember?" As they clinked their soda cans in a mock toast, both felt a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. The road wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face it, together. That night, as Jack lay in bed, his mind raced with ideas and possibilities. For the first time since his fall from grace, he felt a sense of purpose, of hope. And as he drifted off to sleep, his last thoughts were not of his lost fortune or tarnished reputation, but of Maya's smile and the future they were building together. In her small apartment across town, Maya too lay awake, her heart full of excitement and a touch of nervousness. She knew the challenges that lay ahead, the skepticism they would face. But as she closed her eyes, she felt a sense of peace. They had taken the first steps on this journey, and whatever came next, they would face it as partners. As the city slept, two very different worlds had collided, sparking the beginning of a transformation that would ripple out far beyond the borders of one neglected neighborhood. The partnership of Jack and Maya, born out of crisis and fueled by shared vision, was about to change everything. The early morning sun had barely crested the horizon when Jack's phone buzzed insistently on his nightstand. Groggily, he reached for it, squinting at the caller ID. His stomach dropped as he recognized the number. It was Tom, his former CFO and once trusted confidant. "Tom," Jack answered, his voice rough with sleep. "It's been a while." "Cut the pleasantries, Jack." Tom's voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and cold. "I know what you're up to with this so-called community revitalization project. Did you really think you could keep it under wraps?" Jack sat up, fully awake now. "It's not a secret, Tom. We're trying to do some good here. What's your problem with that?" A bitter laugh echoed through the phone. "Oh, please. Saint Jack, risen from the ashes to save the poor? Give me a break. You're just trying to salvage your reputation, and I'm not going to let you use these people to do it." Before Jack could respond, Tom continued, his voice dripping with venom. "I've already started reaching out to my contacts. By the time I'm done, no one in this city will touch your little project with a 10-foot pole. You're finished, Jack, for good this time." The line went dead, leaving Jack staring at his phone in disbelief. He had known there would be obstacles, but he hadn't anticipated this level of malice from his former partner. Across town, Maya was facing her own set of challenges. She stood before the community board, a group of skeptical faces staring back at her. She had come to present their project, hoping to gain local support, but the reception was far from warm. Ms. Washington, one of the board members, an older woman with steely gray hair, spoke up. "While we appreciate your enthusiasm, we have to question your qualifications. What makes you think you can lead a project of this scale?" Maya felt a flicker of anger, but she tamped it down. keeping her voice steady. I may not have a fancy degree or a corporate background, but I know this community. I've lived here. I understand the challenges we face, and I have a vision for how we can overcome them. Another board member, a middle-aged man in a rumpled suit, scoffed. And we're supposed to just trust that? You're working with Jack Harrison, for heaven's sake, the man who lost billions in a failed tech venture. How do we know this isn't just another scheme? Maya took a deep breath, fighting to maintain her composure. Mr. Harrison has made mistakes, yes, but he's committed to using his experience and resources to make a real difference here. We're not asking for blind trust. We're asking for a chance to prove ourselves. As the meeting continued, Maya found herself defending not just the project, but her own capabilities and Jack's intentions. By the time she left, she felt drained, the weight of their skepticism heavy on her shoulders. Later that afternoon, Jack and Maya met at a small cafe near the proposed project site. As soon as Jack saw Maya's face, he knew something was wrong. "Tough day?" he asked gently as she slid into the booth across from him. Maya nodded, her usual bright smile nowhere to be seen. "The community board. They weren't exactly receptive. They questioned everything. The project, my qualifications, your intentions." Jack's face fell. "I'm so sorry, Maya. I should have been there with you." She shook her head. "No, it's probably better you weren't. They're not your biggest fans right now." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm afraid that's not going to get better anytime soon. I heard from Tom this morning." As Jack recounted his conversation with his former CFO, Maya's eyes widened in dismay. "He's actively trying to sabotage us? But why? Revenge, maybe. Or he sees us as a threat to whatever he's got going on now." Jack shrugged, a weary expression on his face. "Either way, we've got a fight on our hands." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their challenges settling over them. Then, Maya reached across the table, taking Jack's hand in hers. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," she said, her voice soft but determined. "But we can't give up now. We owe it to the community, to ourselves, to see this through." Jack squeezed her hand, drawing strength from her unwavering resolve. "You're right. We've come too far to back down now." As they began to strategize, discussing ways to counter Tom's misinformation campaign and win over the skeptical community board, neither of them noticed the figure watching them from across the street. Tom stood in the shadows, his eyes narrowed as he observed their animated conversation. "Enjoy it while you can, Jack," he muttered under his breath. "Your little dream is about to become a nightmare." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity and mounting pressure. Jack and Maya worked tirelessly, reaching out to potential investors, refining their project plans, and trying to build community support. But at every turn, they seemed to face new obstacles. Investors who had initially shown interest suddenly backed out, citing concerns about the project's viability. Community members who had been cautiously optimistic now regarded them with suspicion, whispering about hidden agendas and exploitation. One evening, as they sat in Jack's study reviewing their dwindling list of potential backers, Maya's frustration finally boiled over. "I don't understand," she exclaimed, tossing a stack of papers onto the desk. "We have a solid plan. We're trying to do something good for the community. Why can't they see that?" Jack leaned back in his chair, his expression grim. "It's not about the plan, Maya. It's about me, my reputation, my past. It's poisoning everything we're trying to do." Maya shook her head vehemently. "No, Jack. Don't you dare give up now. We're in this together, remember?" "Maybe." Jack hesitated, the words painful to voice. "Maybe the project would have a better chance without me. If you took the lead, found a different partner." "Absolutely not," Maya cut him off, her voice firm. "We started this together, and we'll see it through together. your experience, your connections. We need them. More importantly, I need you, Jack. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself right now." Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The air seemed to crackle with unspoken emotion, a connection deepening beyond mere partnership. The tension was broken by a knock at the door. Jack's assistant, looking nervous, poked her head in. "Mr. Harrison, there's a group of protesters outside. They're demanding to speak with you." Jack and Maya exchanged alarmed glances before hurrying to the front of the house. As they opened the door, they were met with a sea of angry faces. Signs bobbed above the crowd, bearing slogans like "Harrison, wolf in sheep's clothing," and "Say no to corporate greed." At the front of the group stood a familiar face, the middle-aged man from the community board meeting. He stepped forward, his voice raised to address the crowd. "There he is, folks, the great Jack Harrison, thinking he can buy our trust with empty promises. Well, we're not fooled. We know a scam when we see one." The crowd roared in agreement, the noise almost overwhelming. Jack felt Maya tense beside him, saw the hurt and disappointment in her eyes. In that moment, something inside him snapped. He stepped forward, raising his hands for silence. To his surprise, the crowd quieted, their curiosity momentarily overriding their anger. "You're right," Jack began, his voice carrying across the lawn. "I am Jack Harrison. I've made mistakes, big ones. I've been part of a system that often valued profit over people. But I'm standing here today because I want to change that. Because I believe we can do better." He gestured to Maya, who stepped up beside him. "This woman, Maya Washington, she showed me a different way. She believed in me when no one else did, and more importantly, she believed in this community. In all of you." Jack's voice grew stronger, more passionate. "We're not asking you to trust me blindly. We're asking you to give us a chance to prove ourselves, to work with us, challenge us, hold us accountable. This isn't about salvaging my reputation. It's about building a better future for this neighborhood, for all of us." As Jack spoke, the mood of the crowd began to shift. The anger didn't disappear entirely, but it was tempered by curiosity, and in some faces, a glimmer of hope. Maya stepped forward, her voice joining Jack's. "We're not here to impose our will on you. We want to work with you, to build something together that will benefit everyone. All we're asking for is a chance." As they finished speaking, a hush fell over the crowd. For a moment, Jack and Maya stood there, hearts pounding, unsure of what would happen next. Then from the back of the crowd, a voice called out, "I say we hear them out!" Another voice joined in. "Yeah, let's see what they've got." Slowly, the mood began to turn. The angry shouts were replaced by murmurs of discussion, nods of cautious agreement. The man who had led the protest looked around, realizing he was losing his audience. As the crowd began to disperse, many lingering to ask questions or offer tentative support, Jack and Maya shared a look of cautious optimism. They had weathered the storm, at least for now. Later that night, as they sat on the porch, exhausted but exhilarated, Maya turned to Jack. "You were amazing out there. I knew you had it in you." Jack smiled, a mix of pride and humility in his eyes. "We were amazing. I couldn't have done it without you, Maya." As they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out, both felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was still long and fraught with challenges, but they had taken a crucial step forward. Together, they were starting to turn the tide. In the shadows across the street, unnoticed by either of them, Tom watched with growing frustration. His plan to turn the community against Jack had backfired spectacularly, but as he slunk away into the night, a new plan was already forming in his mind. This battle might be lost, but the war was far from over. The weeks following the protest marked a turning point for Jack and Maya's project. The community's initial skepticism had given way to cautious optimism, and whispers of excitement began to ripple through the neighborhood. Jack and Maya found themselves working harder than ever, but now there was a newfound energy driving them forward. One crisp autumn morning, Jack stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. He paused, studying his reflection. The man staring back at him was different from the one he'd been just a few months ago. The haunted look in his eyes had been replaced by a spark of purpose, and the weight of failure that had hunched his shoulders was lifting. As he made his way downstairs, he found Maya in the kitchen, poring over a stack of papers. She looked up as he entered, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Morning, Jack. Ready for the big day?" Jack nodded, trying to quell the butterflies in his stomach. "As ready as I'll ever be. You know, I used to give presentations to rooms full of cutthroat investors without breaking a sweat. Now I'm nervous about talking to a group of local entrepreneurs." Maya stood, crossing the room to straighten his slightly crooked tie. "That's because this matters more. It's not just about money anymore. It's about people's lives, their dreams." Her hands lingered for a moment on his chest, and their eyes met. There was a beat of silence, charged with unspoken emotion, before Maya stepped back, clearing her throat. "We should get going. Don't want to be late for our own event." The community center was buzzing with activity when they arrived. Local business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, and curious residents milled about, examining the displays Jack and Maya had set up showcasing their plans for the neighborhood. As Jack made his way through the crowd, he was struck by the change in how people reacted to him. Instead of the cold shoulders and suspicious glares he'd grown accustomed to, he was met with tentative smiles and earnest questions about the project. Maya, meanwhile, was in her element. She moved from group to group, her passion evident in every gesture, every word. Jack found himself watching her, marveling at her ability to connect with people, to inspire them with her vision. When it was time for the presentation to begin, Jack took a deep breath and stepped up to the podium. As he looked out over the sea of faces, he felt a moment of panic. Then his eyes found Maya's in the crowd, and she gave him an encouraging nod. Drawing strength from her silent support, he began to speak. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. I know many of you have questions, concerns, and maybe even doubts about what we're trying to do here. I don't blame you. Not too long ago, I was a different man. Someone who probably wouldn't have given this community a second thought." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "But life has a way of teaching us lessons, sometimes in the harshest ways possible. My fall from grace could have been the end of my story. Instead, thanks to the vision and compassion of my partner Maya Washington, it became a new beginning." As Jack continued, outlining their plans for sustainable development, job creation, and community empowerment, he could feel the energy in the room shift. The initial skepticism gave way to interest, and then to excitement. When Maya joined him on stage to discuss the specifics of their small business incubator program, the audience was fully engaged. Questions flew thick and fast, and Jack found himself energized by the community's enthusiasm. As the event wound down, Jack and Maya found themselves surrounded by local entrepreneurs eager to get involved. Among them was Darius, a young man with a brilliant smile and an idea for a tech education program for underprivileged youth. "Ms. Washington, Mr. Harrison," Darius said, his voice brimming with excitement. "I've been dreaming of starting something like this for years, but I never had the resources or support. What you're doing here, it could change everything." Maya beamed at him. "That's exactly what we're hoping for, Darius. We want to provide the springboard for ideas like yours to take flight." As they exchanged contact information and promised to set up a meeting to discuss Darius's idea further, Jack felt a warmth spread through his chest. This was what it was all about, not just revitalizing buildings, but igniting hope and possibility in people's lives. The day's success called for a celebration. As the last of the attendees filtered out, Jack turned to Maya with a grin. "I think we've earned a little festivities, don't you? Dinner? Drinks?" Maya's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Are you asking me out, Mr. Harrison?" Jack felt a flush creep up his neck. I mean, as colleagues, partners, to celebrate our success." Maya laughed, the sound light and musical. "Relax, Jack. I'm teasing. Dinner sounds wonderful." They ended up at a small family-owned restaurant in the heart of the neighborhood. The owner, Mrs. Chen, greeted Maya like an old friend and fussed over them, insisting on serving them her specialty dishes. As they sat across from each other, the candlelight flickering between them, Jack found himself seeing Maya in a new light. The passion that had driven her to approach him with her crazy idea all those months ago, the strength that had carried them through countless setbacks, the warmth that drew people to her. It all came together in a way that took his breath away. "Maya," he said softly, "I don't think I've ever properly thanked you." She tilted her head, curiosity in her eyes. "For what?" "For believing in me, for giving me a second chance when I didn't even think I deserved one." Jack's voice was thick with emotion. "You've changed my life, you know that?" Maya reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "You've changed too, Jack. The man I see before me now. He's someone who genuinely cares, who's willing to fight for what's right. I'm proud to be your partner." The word partner hung in the air between them, laden with meaning. Were they just business partners? Friends? Or was there something more growing between them? Before either of them could address the unspoken question, Mrs. Chen appeared with a bottle of champagne. "On the house," she declared with a wink, "to celebrate your success and all the good you're doing for our community." As they raised their glasses in a toast, the restaurant's old jukebox crackled to life, filling the air with the soft strains of a classic love song. Mrs. Chen's eyes twinkled mischievously. "The floor is yours if you'd like to dance." Jack hesitated for a moment, then stood, offering his hand to Maya. "What do you say, partner? Shall we?" Maya's smile was radiant as she took his hand. "I'd be delighted." As they swayed together on the small dance floor, the rest of the world seemed to fade away. Jack was acutely aware of Maya's hand in his, the warmth of her body close to his, the scent of her perfume. He found himself imagining a future where moments like this weren't just celebrations of professional success, but something more personal, more permanent. Maya, for her part, felt her heart racing. She had always admired Jack's business acumen, had seen the potential for good in him even when he couldn't see it himself. But this Jack, the one who spoke passionately about helping others, who looked at her with such warmth and gratitude, this was a man she could see herself falling for. As the song came to an end, they remained in each other's arms for a moment longer than necessary. When they finally stepped apart, both were slightly flushed, their eyes shining with unspoken emotion. The spell was broken by the buzz of Jack's phone. He glanced at it, his brow furrowing. "It's from one of our potential investors. They want to meet first thing tomorrow morning." Maya nodded, shifting back into business mode despite the lingering butterflies in her stomach. "We should probably call it a night then. Big day tomorrow." As they left the restaurant, thanking Mrs. Chen profusely for her hospitality, there was a new undercurrent of tension between them. The easy camaraderie of their partnership had been complicated by the events of the evening, by the realization that their feelings for each other might be evolving into something deeper. Outside, as they waited for their respective rides, Jack turned to Maya. "Tonight was nice," he said, wincing internally at the inadequacy of the word. Maya smiled, a mix of affection and amusement in her eyes. "It was. We should do it again sometime." There was a moment where both of them leaned in slightly, the air charged with possibility. But then Maya's ride arrived, breaking the moment. "Good night, Jack," she said softly, squeezing his hand before climbing into the car. "Good night, Maya," Jack replied, watching as the car disappeared into the night. As he made his way home, Jack's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The day had been a triumph for their project, a validation of everything they'd been working towards. But it was the evening, the dance, the almost kiss, that truly had his heart racing. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Jack Harrison was excited about the future, not just for the success of their project, but for the possibility of a new chapter in his personal life as well. Little did he know that across town, Maya was lost in similar thoughts, her heart full of hope and possibility for what the future might hold, both for their project and for them. The crisp autumn air had given way to winter's chill as Jack stood at the window of his office, watching snowflakes dance in the pale morning light. In just a few short hours, they would be breaking ground on their first major renovation project, the abandoned building that Maya had spotted on their initial tour of the neighborhood. The past few months had been a whirlwind of activity. After the successful community event, support for their project had snowballed. Local businesses had pledged resources, residents had volunteered their time and skills, and even a few major investors had come on board, impressed by the innovative approach and the passion behind it. But as Jack's eyes fell on the newspaper on his desk, his moment of quiet reflection was shattered. The headline glared up at him. Harrison's redemption or elaborate scam? Questions raised about community project. Jack's hands clenched into fists as he skimmed the article. It was a masterpiece of insinuation and doubt, quoting anonymous sources that questioned the project's financial structure and hinted at hidden agendas. Jack didn't need to see the name to know who was behind it. Tom's fingerprints were all over this hit piece. The door burst open, startling Jack from his angry reverie. Maya rushed in, her cheeks flushed from the cold and her eyes wide with concern. "Jack, have you seen the newspaper?" "Yeah, I've seen it," Jack cut her off, his voice tight with frustration. Maya moved closer, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "We knew Tom might try something like this. We've prepared for it, remember?" Jack nodded, taking a deep breath to calm himself. "You're right. We can't let this derail us. Not when we're so close." As they stood there, drawing strength from each other's presence, Jack's phone buzzed. It was a text from Darius, the young entrepreneur they had met at the community event. "Saw the article. Don't worry, we've got your backs. See you at the groundbreaking." A small smile tugged at Jack's lips as he showed the message to Maya. "Looks like we've got some supporters out there." Maya's eyes sparkled with determination. "Then let's go show them what we're made of." As they made their way to the construction site, Jack and Maya were buoyed by the stream of supportive messages flooding their phones. It seemed that for every doubt the article had sown, there were a dozen voices rising to defend the project and its leaders. The scene that greeted them at the site took their breath away. A crowd had gathered, not just the expected officials and investors, but scores of community members. Many held homemade signs proclaiming their support for the project and for Jack and Maya themselves. As they made their way through the crowd, Jack and Maya were met with words of encouragement, handshakes, and even a few hugs. The negativity of the morning's article seemed to melt away in the face of this outpouring of support. Darius pushed his way through the crowd, a group of young people in tow. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Washington, we brought reinforcements. These are some of the kids who will be part of our tech education program once the community center is up and running." Jack felt a lump form in his throat as he looked at the eager faces before him. This was what it was all about, creating opportunities, igniting hope. He turned to Maya, seeing his own emotion reflected in her eyes. As they took their places for the groundbreaking ceremony, Jack leaned in close to Maya. "Whatever happens today, I want you to know, this has been the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And it's all because of you." Maya's hand found his, squeezing it gently. "We did this together, Jack. Partners, remember?" The ceremony began, with various officials making speeches about the project's potential impact on the community. As Jack stepped up to the podium for his own address, he felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But as his eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the faces of those whose lives they were working to improve, he felt a surge of confidence. "A year ago," Jack began, his voice strong and clear, "I stood before a different crowd, shareholders, business moguls, people interested only in profit margins and stock prices. I thought that was what success looked like." He paused, his gaze finding Maya in the crowd. "I was wrong. True success isn't measured in dollars and cents. It's measured in lives changed, in communities uplifted, in hope restored." As Jack continued his speech, outlining their vision for the project and the impact it would have on the community, he could feel the energy of the crowd building. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Maya joined him at the podium for the actual groundbreaking, their hands joining on the ceremonial shovel. As they turned the first bit of earth together, the crowd erupted in cheers. The mood was celebratory as people mingled after the ceremony, discussing plans and sharing their excitement for the project. Jack and Maya found themselves at the center of it all, fielding questions, accepting congratulations, and basking in the positive energy. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. As the crowd began to disperse, Jack noticed a commotion near the edge of the site. Tom had arrived, a small group of reporters in tow. "Jack," Tom called out, his voice dripping with false concern. "I'm hurt you didn't invite me to the party. After all, someone needs to ask the hard questions about this little project of yours." Jack felt Maya tense beside him, but before either of them could respond, Darius stepped forward. "You want to ask questions?" "Fine. Ask me," Darius said, his voice steady. "Ask any of us. We'll tell you exactly what this project means to our community." One by one, community members stepped up, forming a human barrier between Tom and Jack and Maya. They shared stories of how the project had already impacted their lives, of the hope it had given them for the future. Tom's smug expression faltered in the face of this unexpected resistance. The reporters, sensing a different story than the one they had come for, began peppering the community members with questions about their involvement in the project. As Tom slinked away, his plan clearly backfiring, Jack turned to Maya with a mix of awe and gratitude. "Did you see that? They stood up for us." Maya's eyes shone with unshed tears. "No, Jack. They stood up for themselves, for their community. That's what we've been working towards all along." As the day wound down, Jack and Maya found themselves alone at the construction site. The equipment stood silent, ready to roar to life the next day and begin the physical transformation of the neighborhood. "It's really happening," Maya said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "Sometimes I still can't believe it." Jack turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "Believe it. You made this happen, Maya. Your vision, your faith. You didn't just save this community. You saved me." Their eyes met, and in that moment, all the unspoken feelings that had been building between them over the months came rushing to the surface. Jack leaned in slowly, giving Maya every chance to pull away. But she met him halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that felt like coming home. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Jack rested his forehead against Maya's. "I'm in love with you," he whispered. "I think I have been for a while now." Maya's answering smile was radiant. "I love you too, Jack. God help me. but I do." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with the skeleton of their dreams rising behind them, both Jack and Maya felt a sense of rightness, of pieces falling into place. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but they would face them together, as partners in every sense of the word. The sound of approaching footsteps broke their reverie. They turned to see Darius jogging towards them, an urgent expression on his face. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Washington, you need to see this," he panted, holding out his phone. On the screen was a breaking news alert. The headline made Jack's blood run cold. Federal investigation launched into Harrison Washington project finances. As Jack and Maya exchanged worried glances, they knew that their moment of triumph had been short-lived. The real fight was just beginning. The harsh fluorescent lights of the conference room cast long shadows as Jack and Maya sat side by side, facing a panel of stern-faced federal investigators. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the occasional scratch of pen on paper as the investigators took notes. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Washington," the lead investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Agent Chen, began. "We've reviewed your financial records, interviewed your investors, and examined every aspect of your project. I have to say, we came in here expecting to find evidence of fraud or at the very least gross mismanagement." Jack and Maya exchanged a worried glance. They had spent the past week cooperating fully with the investigation, providing every document requested and answering every question with complete transparency. But they knew all too well how things could be twisted, how easy it was for doubt to overshadow truth. Agent Chen leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Instead, what we found was one of the most meticulously organized, ethically run urban development projects we've ever seen. The tension in the room broke like a dam. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, while Jack's shoulders sagged with relief. "Your financial structure is innovative yet sound," Agent Chen continued. "Your community engagement is exemplary, and the measures you've put in place to ensure long-term sustainability and prevent gentrification are, quite frankly, revolutionary." Jack found his voice first. "Thank you, Agent Chen. We've worked hard to ensure every aspect of this project is above board and truly beneficial to the community." Maya nodded in agreement. "Transparency and ethical practices have been our top priorities from day one." Agent Chen allowed herself a small smile. "It shows. Now there's still the matter of who initiated this investigation and why. We have reason to believe it was based on false information provided by a Thomas Elliott." At the mention of Tom's name, Jack felt a surge of anger, quickly tempered by Maya's calming hand on his arm. "We're familiar with Mr. Elliott," Maya said diplomatically. "He's a former associate of Jack's who has expressed concerns about our project in the past." Agent Chen's eyes narrowed. "Expressed concerns is putting it mildly. We have evidence that Mr. Elliott engaged in a systematic campaign of misinformation and attempted sabotage against your project. We'll be looking into his activities very closely." As they left the federal building, stepping into the bright spring sunshine, Jack turned to Maya with a mix of relief and lingering disbelief on his face. "We did it. We actually did it." Maya's answering smile was radiant. "We did. And now, with the investigation behind us, we can focus on what really matters, finishing what we started." The next few months passed in a blur of activity. With the cloud of suspicion lifted, support for the project soared. Investors who had been sitting on the fence now jumped in with both feet, eager to be part of something so positively recognized. The abandoned building they had broken ground on just months ago was now a bustling hive of activity. The ground floor was taking shape as a state-of-the-art community center, while the upper floors were being transformed into affordable housing units. Jack and Maya found themselves working harder than ever, but now there was a palpable sense of excitement and fulfillment in everything they did. Their partnership, both professional and personal, had deepened. each challenge they faced only serving to strengthen their bond. One sunny afternoon, as they stood surveying the progress at the construction site, Darius approached them, practically bouncing with excitement. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Washington, you've got to see this," he said, holding out his tablet. On the screen was an article from a major business publication. The headline read, "Harrison Washington Project, a new model for ethical urban development." As they skimmed the article, Jack and Maya's eyes widened. It wasn't just praise for their project. It was a call for similar initiatives across the country, holding up their work as a shining example of how business could be a force for positive change in communities. "This is amazing," Maya breathed, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Jack wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "You're amazing. This all started with your vision, Maya." Darius cleared his throat, a mischievous glint in his eye. "That's not all. Check your emails. The mayor's office just sent something interesting." Curious, Jack pulled out his phone, Maya peering over his shoulder. As they read the email, their jaws dropped in unison. "They want to present us with the key to the city?" Jack said incredulously. "For outstanding contributions to community development and urban renewal?" Maya laughed, a sound of pure joy.
I can't believe it. Jack, do you realize what this means? We're not just changing this neighborhood. We're changing how people think about urban development altogether.
The day of the ceremony dawned bright and clear. The community center, now complete, was buzzing with activity as final preparations were made for the grand opening, which would coincide with the key presentation. As Jack adjusted his tie in front of a mirror, he caught sight of Maya entering the room behind him. She was resplendent in a deep blue dress, her hair swept up elegantly, but it was the look in her eyes, a mixture of pride, love, and excitement, that took his breath away. "Ready for this?" she asked, coming to stand beside him. Jack turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "Ready as I'll ever be. You know, a year ago, if someone had told me I'd be standing here, about to receive the key to the city for a community development project, I would have laughed in their face." Maya smiled softly. "And now?" "Now," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't imagine being anywhere else, doing anything else, with anyone else." Their moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. Darius poked his head in. "It's time. Everyone's waiting." The community center was packed to the brim. Residents, local business owners, city officials, and even a few national press members filled every available seat. As Jack and Maya made their way to the stage, they were met with a standing ovation. The mayor, a jovial man with a booming voice, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today not just to open a building, but to celebrate a new chapter in our city's history. The Harrison Washington Project has shown us what's possible when business acumen meets community spirit, when profit and social good align." As the mayor continued his speech, detailing the project's achievements and its impact on the community, Jack and Maya exchanged a glance. In that look was a wealth of shared experiences, the late nights, the setbacks, the triumphs, and the gradual realization that what had started as a professional partnership had blossomed into something much deeper. "And now," the mayor concluded, "it is my great honor to present the key to the city to Jack Harrison and Maya Washington, in recognition of their outstanding contributions to our community." As Jack and Maya stepped forward to accept the key, the applause was deafening. Jack took the microphone, his hand finding Maya's as he began to speak. "Thank you all. This honor, it's overwhelming. But the truth is, Maya and I don't deserve all the credit. This project, this success, it belongs to all of you. To every resident who believed in us, every volunteer who gave their time, every business that contributed resources." He turned to Maya, a soft smile on his face. "And to you, Maya. You saw potential in me when I couldn't see it in myself. You showed me that true success isn't measured in dollars, but in lives changed and communities uplifted. Maya stepped closer to the microphone, her voice steady despite the emotion shining in her eyes. This project has been a journey of redemption, of second chances. It's proof that when we come together, when we believe in each other and in our community, there's nothing we can't achieve. As they finished their speech, Jack did something that surprised everyone, including Maya. He knelt down on one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Maya Washington," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the suddenly hushed room. "You've been my partner in every sense of the word. You've challenged me, supported me, and shown me what really matters in life. Will you be my partner forever? Will you marry me?" For a moment, Maya stood frozen in shock. Then a brilliant smile spread across her face. "Yes," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will." As Jack slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to embrace her, the room erupted in cheers. In that moment, surrounded by the community they had helped to rebuild, Jack and Maya knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. The celebration continued long into the night. As Jack and Maya mingled with the crowd, accepting congratulations both on their engagement and on the success of the project, they were approached by a familiar face, Darius. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Washington, or should I say, the future Mrs. Harrison," Darius said with a grin. "I have some news of my own to share." He handed them a business card. On it was printed, "Darius Johnson, CEO, Next Gen Tech Education. Thanks to the skills and connections I've gained through our tech education program, I've secured funding to expand it citywide," Darius explained, his eyes shining with pride. "We're going to bring tech education to underprivileged youth across the entire metropolitan area." Maya pulled Darius into a hug. "Darius, that's wonderful. We're so proud of you." Jack shook Darius's hand warmly. "This is exactly what we hoped for, not just to help directly, but to inspire others to create change." As Darius moved away to share his news with others, Jack and Maya found a quiet moment alone. They stood by the window, looking out at the neighborhood that had become so much more than just a project to them. "So," Jack said softly, his arm around Maya's waist, "what's next for us?" Maya leaned into him, a thoughtful expression on her face. "You know, I've been thinking. What we've done here, it doesn't have to stop with this neighborhood or even this city. There are communities all over the country, all over the world, that could benefit from this model." Jack nodded, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "A consulting firm, maybe? We could help other cities implement similar projects, train other entrepreneurs to do what we've done here." "Exactly," Maya agreed. "We've risen from the ashes, Jack. Now it's time to help others do the same." As they stood there, envisioning their future together and the impact they could continue to make, Jack and Maya knew that their journey was far from over. They had faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and in the process, not only rebuilt a community, but also found each other. The path ahead was bright with possibility, and they were ready to face it, together as partners in every sense of the word. As the sounds of celebration continued around them, Jack and Maya shared a kiss, sealing their commitment to each other and to the work that had brought them together. In that moment, they knew that this was not an ending, but a beautiful new beginning. Did this narrative stir your emotions? Don't forget to express your approval with a like. Take advantage of the Super Thanks feature, available just below the video, to offer direct support to the channel and contribute to the production of more fascinating content. Subscribe and remember to activate the bell to stay up to date with all the latest updates. And attention, a new exciting story is already ready to be displayed on your screen. Your participation means a lot to me, and I hope to count on your presence soon. Thank you very much for dedicating your time to this video.